The great hall floated in space like a crystal mountain. Inside, 12 beings sat around a table that glowed with soft blue light. They had been watching Earth for 300 years. Today they would decide humanity's fate forever. Ambassador Zethkara stood up. Her skin was gray like stone and her eyes were black as space. She had lived for 2,000 years and seen many species rise and fall. The humans were just another young race that needed to be controlled. Council members, she said in a voice that echoed through the hall, I have studied the humans for decades. They are too dangerous for our galaxy. She waved her hand and images appeared in the air above the table. Earth spun slowly, showing its blue oceans and green lands. But the images changed. Wars erupted across the planet. Cities burned. Oceans rose as the climate changed. People fought each other for food and water. Look at them, Zethkara continued. They cannot even live in peace on one world. They destroy their own planet. They kill their own kind. How can we trust them with the stars? The other council members nodded. They had seen this before. Young species always thought they were ready for space travel. Most of them destroyed themselves before they could leave their home worlds. The few that survived usually tried to conquer other planets. The barrier around their solar system will stay, Zethkara declared. They will never leave the Sol system. This is for the safety of all civilized beings. The council voted. 12 hands rose in agreement. Humanity would remain trapped forever. But far from the council's crystal hall, something was happening that they did not know about. Dr. Sarah Chen worked alone in her laboratory on Luna Base. The Earth hung in the black sky outside her window like a blue jewel. She had been studying quantum fields for 10 years. Tonight, her equipment was showing something strange. The machines beeped and hummed around her. Numbers flashed on screens. Sarah frowned as she looked at the data. The quantum field around their solar system was not natural. It was artificial. Someone had built it to keep them inside. That's impossible, she whispered to herself. But the numbers did not lie. She ran the test again. The same result appeared. There was a wall around their entire solar system. A wall made of energy that no human had ever detected before. Sarah's hand shook as she saved the data. If this was real, it meant they were prisoners. Someone out there was keeping them locked in their own star system. Meanwhile, in the cold darkness beyond Pluto, a massive ship drifted through space. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried 50,000 people. Its name was written on the side in bold letters, Persistence. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. He was 45 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. For 20 years he had been working on humanity's greatest secret project. The ship had been built in pieces over decades. They used materials from asteroids and built it in the shadow of Neptune where no satellites could see. The council thought they watched everything humans did. They were wrong. Captain, said his first officer, a young woman named Lisa Park. Dr. Chen is sending us a signal from Luna Base. Marcus turned to look at the communication screen. Sarah Chen's face appeared excited and frightened at the same time. Marcus, you need to see this, she said. I've discovered why our deep space probes keep disappearing. There's a barrier around our solar system, an artificial one. Marcus felt his heart race. They had suspected this for years. Now they had proof. Can you break through it? He asked. I think so, Sarah replied. But we need to test the theory. Are you ready? Marcus looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. Their families were in the sleeping pods below. Everything humanity dreamed of was waiting beyond the stars. We're ready, he said. Back in the council hall, alarms suddenly began to ring. The crystal walls flashed red. Emergency lights bathed the 12 members in angry light. A younger council member, one of the few who sometimes questioned their methods, stood up quickly. His name was Velthar, and his blue skin had turned pale with fear. The soul barrier is showing unusual readings, he announced. Something is happening inside the human system. Zethkara's black eyes grew wide. That is impossible. Their technology is primitive. They barely have fusion power. But the alarms kept ringing. Data flowed across holographic screens. The quantum barrier around Sol was being tested. Something inside the human solar system was probing its weaknesses. Increase the barrier strength, Zethkara ordered. Double the power output. The other council members looked worried. In 300 years, no contained species had ever challenged their barriers. The walls were supposed to be invisible and unbreakable. What if they escape? Asked another member, an ancient being whose species had built the first council ships. They will not, Zethkara said firmly. Humans are clever for primitives, but they lack the knowledge to break our technology. This is probably just an accident. But she was wrong. On the Persistence, Captain Rodriguez watched as his engineering team prepared their experimental faster-than-light drive. They had built it using theories that human scientists developed in secret. The Council had been watching Earth's public research. They had missed the private projects. "Drive is ready, Captain," announced the chief engineer. "We've never tested it at this range before. We don't know what will happen." Marcus nodded. "If we stay here, we'll never know what's out there. If we go, we might die, but we might also live free." He turned to address his crew. "Everyone prepare for jump. We're about to make history." The ship's engines began to glow. Energy built up in the quantum drive cores. Outside the ship, space itself began to bend and twist. In the council hall, the alarms grew louder. "The barrier is failing," shouted Velthar. "Something is breaking through." Zethkara stood frozen as she watched her perfect containment system crack like glass. For the first time in her long life, she felt fear. The humans were not supposed to be able to do this. They were not supposed to be smart enough or strong enough to challenge the Council's power. But as the Persistence vanished in a flash of light, heading toward the nearest star system, Zethkara realized something terrible. The Council had been wrong about humanity, and now it was too late to stop them. Dr. Sarah Chen had not slept for 3 days. Her eyes were red and her hands shook from too much coffee, but she could not stop working. The discovery was too important. Her laboratory on Luna Base buzzed with activity. Scientists from Earth had come to help her understand the quantum barrier. They worked at computers and tested equipment while Sarah stood at the main control panel. "Try it again," she told her assistant, Dr. Kim. "But this time use a narrower frequency beam." Dr. Kim pressed buttons on his console. A beam of energy shot out from their transmitter toward the edge of the solar system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the beam punched through the barrier like a bullet through paper. "It worked," Kim shouted. "The signal is getting through." Sarah felt her heart pound with excitement. They had found a way to communicate beyond their solar system prison. But more than that, they had found a weakness in the wall that kept them trapped. "Send a message to the Persistence," Sarah ordered. "Tell Captain Rodriguez that we can break the barrier." 24 hours later, Captain Marcus Rodriguez received Sarah's message on his ship far beyond Pluto. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. The barrier could be broken. They could escape. Marcus called his senior officers to the bridge. Lisa Park, his first officer, looked tired but excited. Chief Engineer Tom Bradley wiped oil from his hands as he came up from the engine room. "Dr. Chen has found a way through the barrier," Marcus announced. "But it only works for small things right now. Energy beams, radio signals, maybe small objects." "What about the ship?" asked Lisa. "Can we get through?" Tom scratched his beard. "The drive works by bending space around us. If we can bend space, maybe we can bend the barrier too." Marcus nodded. "That's what I'm thinking. But we'll only get one chance. If we fail, they'll strengthen the barrier and we'll never escape." He looked around at his officers. These people had given up everything to be here. Their families slept in the cold storage pods below, trusting Marcus to lead them to a new world. "Are we ready?" he asked. "The drive is charged and ready," Tom reported. "All systems show green," added Lisa. Marcus took a deep breath. "Then let's make history." In the council hall, chaos had taken over the usual calm order. The 12 members argued loudly while alarms continued to ring. Holographic displays showed the Sol barrier flickering like a broken light. Ambassador Zethkara stood at the center of the hall, her gray skin darker than usual with anger. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "Our barriers have contained species for millions of years." Velthar, the young blue-skinned council member, studied the data on his personal screen. "The humans are using a technique we have never seen before. They are not trying to break through the barrier. They are finding holes in it." "Holes?" Zethkara's black eyes flashed with rage. "Our barriers are perfect." "No barrier is perfect," said another council member, an ancient being whose species had helped design the containment system. But this should not matter. Humans lack the technology to exploit such small weaknesses. Velthar looked up from his screen. Perhaps we underestimated their abilities. The suggestion hit the hall like a physical blow. For thousands of years, the Council had prided themselves on understanding every species in the galaxy. They studied, they analyzed, they categorized. They did not make mistakes. Impossible, Zethkara said. We have watched them for 3 centuries. We know everything about them. But even as she spoke, new alarms began to sound. Captain Rodriguez felt his stomach drop as the Persistence entered jump space. Around the ship, normal space twisted into impossible shapes. Stars stretched into lines of light. The barrier appeared ahead of them like a wall of fire. Drive at maximum power, Tom announced from the engine room. Barrier contact in 10 seconds, Lisa reported. Marcus gripped the arms of his captain's chair. 50,000 people were counting on him to get this right. The ship hit the barrier. For a moment that felt like hours, everything stopped. The Persistence hung between normal space and the quantum wall that had trapped humanity for 3 centuries. Marcus could feel the barrier trying to push them back, to keep them inside their solar system prison. But Tom's engines were stronger than the Council had expected. Human engineering was different from anything they had seen before. Where other species built elegant solutions, humans built tough ones that could take punishment and keep working. The barrier cracked. Light exploded around the ship as the Persistence broke through into open space. The stars looked different here, brighter, more beautiful. Marcus realized he was seeing suns that no human had ever seen before. We did it, Lisa whispered. We're out. Tom's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. Drive is stable. We're free and clear, Captain. Marcus smiled for the first time in months. Set course for Proxima Centauri. It's time to find our new home. In the Council Hall, the holographic display showed something that should have been impossible. The Sol barrier had a hole in it. A human ship had escaped into open space. Track them, Zethkara ordered. Send our fastest ships to intercept. Already done, replied the military commander, a being whose species had served as the Council's army for millennia. But they have a significant head start, and their drive technology appears to be more advanced than we believed possible. Zethkara stared at the display showing the escaped human ship racing toward the nearest star system. Everything she believed about the natural order was being challenged. How advanced can they be? She asked. 300 years ago, they were fighting with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Velthar looked up from his analysis. Ambassador, I think we made an error. We assumed that because their public technology was primitive, they had no advanced research. But what if they were hiding their real capabilities? The question hung in the air like a threat. If humans had been secretly developing advanced technology for centuries, then everything the Council thought they knew was wrong. It does not matter, Zethkara said finally. One ship cannot threaten the order we have built over millions of years. We will capture or destroy them, and then we will strengthen the barrier to prevent future escapes. But privately, she felt a cold fear growing in her chest. The humans had surprised them once. What other surprises were waiting? On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the sensor readings as the Persistence disappeared into faster-than-light travel. The ship was free. Marcus and his people had escaped the solar system prison, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. One ship with 50,000 people could not change the galaxy. They needed more ships, more people, more chances to break free. She turned to her team of scientists. We need to make the hole bigger. Big enough for colony ships to get through? How do we do that? Asked Dr. Kim. Sarah smiled. We study their barrier until we understand it better than they do. Then we break it open and let humanity free. The Council thought they had contained a primitive species. They had actually trapped the most dangerous force in the galaxy, human curiosity and determination. And now humanity was loose among the stars. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Persistence and stared out at something impossible. They had arrived at Proxima Centauri expecting to find empty space and a small red star. Instead, they found a massive structure orbiting the planet. What is that thing? Asked Lisa Park, his first officer. The structure was enormous, easily 10 times the size of their ship. It was made of metal that gleamed like silver but seemed older than anything humans had ever built. Long arms extended from a central hub, reaching out toward the planet like the legs of a mechanical spider. It's not human, said Tom Bradley, the chief engineer. But it's not natural either. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. First contact with an alien species. This was the moment every human had dreamed about since they first looked up at the stars. "Any signs of life?" he asked. Lisa checked her sensors. "No energy signatures. No movement. If anyone is inside that thing, they're not active. Take us closer," Marcus ordered. "But keep our weapons ready." As the Persistence approached the alien structure, details became clear. The metal was covered with symbols that no human language could read. Some sections looked damaged, as if the structure had been attacked long ago. Other parts seemed to have been repaired with different materials. "Captain," said Tom from the engine room over the intercom, "you need to see this. The structure is using technology similar to our quantum drive, but it's much more advanced. This thing is thousands of years old." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Someone else had been here long before humans ever left their solar system. Someone had built this mining station and then abandoned it. "Prepare a boarding party," he ordered. "I want to know who built this and why they left." Meanwhile, in the council hall, Ambassador Zethkara watched the fleet reports with growing anger. 3 of their fastest ships had been sent to capture the escaped humans. They should have reached Proxima Centauri hours ago. "Where are our ships?" she demanded. The military commander, a being whose species had served the council for millennia, looked uncomfortable. They encountered unexpected resistance." "Resistance?" Zethkara's black eyes blazed with fury. "From 50,000 primitive humans?" "The humans found something at Proxima Centauri," the commander explained. "An old automated mining facility. Our ships arrived to find the humans had already reverse-engineered the technology and improved it." Zethkara felt the cold fear in her chest grow stronger. "Improved it? In a matter of days? Our fleet commander reports that the human ship now has defensive capabilities that match our own. They are using the mining facility's construction systems to build additional equipment." The hall fell silent. Every council member stared at the military reports in disbelief. How could a primitive species adapt alien technology so quickly? "This is impossible," whispered the ancient council member whose species had helped design the barriers. "No young race has ever demonstrated such rapid technological integration." Velthar, the blue-skinned council member who had questioned their methods before, studied the data on his personal screen. "Perhaps rapid adaptation is their species' primary survival trait. We focused on their conflicts and aggression. We may have missed their true strength." Zethkara wanted to deny it, but the evidence was clear. Somehow humans were doing what should have been impossible. Back on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen made a breakthrough that would change everything. Working with quantum field equations for weeks, she had found a way to send objects through the barrier, not just energy beams. "Dr. Kim," she called to her assistant, "prepare the transportation chamber. We're going to send someone through." Lieutenant James Park, Lisa's younger brother, volunteered for the mission. He was a soldier trained in reconnaissance and survival. If anyone could survive being transported through the quantum barrier into unknown space, it was him. "Remember," Sarah told him as he stepped into the transportation chamber, "you'll appear somewhere in the galaxy beyond the barrier. Your suit has enough air for 24 hours. Your job is to gather information and return." James nodded inside his helmet. "Understood, Doctor. See you on the other side." The transportation beam activated. For a moment, James felt like he was being pulled apart and put back together. Then he was floating in space near a massive crystal structure. The council hall. James quickly activated his suit's stealth systems, technology that humans had developed for space warfare. The council's sensors, designed to detect ships and large objects, missed one small human in a specially designed suit. For 6 hours, James floated near the council hall and listened to their communications. His suit translated their languages using artificial intelligence that Earth's computers had developed. What he heard made him realize the truth about humanity's situation. They were not the first species to be imprisoned. The galaxy was full of civilizations that the Council had contained or guided, or simply destroyed. Dozens of species lived under Council control, their development carefully managed to prevent any threat to the established order. But James also learned something else. Many of these species were starting to question the Council's authority. The word was spreading through the galaxy that humans had escaped their barrier. For the first time in millennia, controlled species were beginning to hope. When James returned to Earth through Sarah's transportation system, he brought information that changed everything. "There are dozens of species out there," he reported to the emergency meeting of Earth's leaders. "Most of them are as advanced as we are. but they've been kept under council control for thousands of years. Some of them want to be free. Dr. Chen leaned forward in her chair. Can we contact them? Already done, James replied. I left communication devices with 3 different species during my return journey. They're eager to talk. The president of Earth looked around the room at the assembled scientists, military leaders, and diplomats. Are we talking about a rebellion? We're talking about liberation, said General Morrison, the head of Earth's Space Forces. But we need to be smart about it. The Council has been doing this for millions of years. They have resources we can't imagine. Dr. Chen stood up. Then we don't fight them the way they expect. We do what we've always done best, which is, asked the president, we improvise, we adapt. We find solutions that no one else would think of. Back at Proxima Centauri, Captain Rodriguez received the news from Earth with mixed feelings. Part of him was excited that humanity was not alone in wanting freedom from the Council. Part of him was terrified of the responsibility they were taking on. Captain, said Tom from the engineering section of the mining facility, I've analyzed the alien technology completely. This place wasn't just a mining operation. It was a research station. The species that built it were studying ways to break council barriers. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. What happened to them? From what I can tell, they succeeded. Then they disappeared. All of them, all at once. Lisa looked up from her own analysis station. The council eliminated them? That's my best guess, Tom replied. But they left their research behind. And Captain, their work was very close to succeeding. With human engineering, we might be able to finish what they started. Marcus looked out at the stars surrounding their new home. Somewhere out there, the Council was planning their next move. Other species were waiting to see if humanity could truly challenge the ancient order. The first battle had been won when they escaped the Sol barrier. But Marcus realized that the real war was just beginning. Tom, he said finally, finish their work. If we're going to free the galaxy, we need every advantage we can get. The Council had controlled space for millions of years through superior technology and careful planning. But they had never faced an enemy that could take their own weapons and make them better. They were about to learn what human ingenuity could accomplish when survival was at stake. 6 months after the Persistence escaped, 7 more human colony ships broke through the weakened barrier around Sol. Each ship carried 50,000 people from different nations and cultures of Earth. Each ship chose a different star system to explore. Dr. Sarah Chen had kept her promise. The hole in the barrier was now big enough for large ships to pass through. But more importantly, she had given each ship the technology to create their own holes if they needed to escape quickly. The Council's perfect containment system was falling apart. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the colony ship, New Horizons. She was a former astronaut from Mexico who had trained for 20 years for this mission. Her ship arrived at Wolf 359 to find something unexpected. Captain, reported her science officer, we're detecting artificial structures throughout this system. Not just 1 or 2, hundreds of them. Elena looked at the sensor displays with amazement. The system was filled with ancient automated factories and research stations, all connected by streams of light that carried information between them. But like the facility at Proxima Centauri, everything appeared to be abandoned. Any signs of the builders? Elena asked. None, but Captain, these machines are still working. They've been maintaining themselves and continuing their research for thousands of years. Elena's chief engineer, Dr. Patel, came to the bridge with excitement in his eyes. Captain, you need to see this. These machines are designed to interface with biological minds. They were built to work with living beings, not just follow programmed instructions. What does that mean? Elena asked. It means they want to teach us, Dr. Patel replied. The moment we approached, they began transmitting educational programs in mathematics, science, and engineering. They're trying to share their knowledge. Elena felt a chill of wonder. Why? I think their builders knew they were going to be destroyed. They programmed these machines to wait for someone else to find them, someone who could continue their work. Meanwhile, at Kepler 442, Captain Zhang Wei faced a different mystery. His colony ship Dragon's Flight had found a planet covered in what appeared to be crystal formations. The crystals grew in geometric patterns across the entire surface, creating structures that looked almost like cities. They're not just crystals, reported his geology expert, Dr. Sarah Kim. They're processing information. The entire planet is thinking. Captain Zhang stared at the planet through the view screen, thinking about what? We're not sure yet, but when we sent a communication signal toward the surface, the crystals changed their pattern. They're responding to us. Dr. Kim continued her analysis. The Council classified this planet as having non-intelligent mineral formations. But these crystals are definitely alive and aware. They've been waiting for someone to talk to them. The third colony ship, Freedom's Call under Captain Okafor, made perhaps the most important discovery at Gliese 667c. They found not just abandoned technology, but living beings. The Cathara were a species that the Council had declared extinct 300 years earlier. In reality, they had been hiding in deep space, avoiding the Council's surveillance systems. When human ships appeared in their region, they decided to make contact. "Humans," said the Cathara ambassador in translated speech, "we have watched your escape from the Council's containment. You have done what we thought was impossible." Captain Okafor met with the Cathara delegation on his ship. They were tall, graceful beings with silver skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "We were told your species was extinct," Okafor said. "The Council finds it convenient to declare species extinct when they become difficult to control," the ambassador replied. "We chose to hide rather than submit. But hiding is not living. When we saw humans breaking free, we decided to hope again." The ambassador leaned forward in her chair. "Captain, there are others like us. Species that have been suppressed, controlled, or driven into hiding by the Council. If humans can truly challenge their authority, many will join you." Captain Okafor felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "What are you asking of us?" "Help us reclaim the galaxy," the ambassador said simply. "Not through conquest, but through liberation. Show the suppressed species that freedom is possible." Back on Earth, Dr. Chen monitored the communications from all the colony ships. Each day brought new discoveries, new contacts with species that had been hidden or controlled by the Council. The human expansion was becoming something much larger than anyone had planned. "Dr. Chen," said her assistant Kim, "we're receiving reports that the Council is mobilizing their full military force. Thousands of ships heading toward all the human colonies." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "How long do our people have?" "Based on their speed, maybe 2 weeks before they reach the furthest colonies," Sarah thought quickly. The human colonies were scattered across dozens of star systems. They had made incredible discoveries and new allies, but they were still vastly outnumbered by the Council's forces. "Send a message to all colony ships," she ordered. "Tell them to prepare for siege. And tell them to share everything they've learned with their new allies. If the Council wants a war, we'll give them one they never expected." In the Council Hall, Ambassador Zethakara studied battle reports with growing disbelief. The human colonies weren't just surviving their expansion into space. They were thriving and making allies. "How many species have made contact with the humans?" she asked the intelligence officer. 17 confirmed, came the reply. "But we believe the actual number is higher. Many species are communicating through methods we cannot monitor." Velthar, the blue-skinned council member, reviewed the reports on his personal screen. "Ambassador, we may have a serious problem. The humans are not behaving like a typical expanding species." "What do you mean?" Zethkara demanded. "Most species that break containment try to conquer territory or gather resources. The humans are doing something different. They're sharing their discoveries with other species and helping them develop advanced technology." The ancient council member who had helped design the original barriers spoke up for the first time in months. "That is unprecedented. In millions of years, we have never seen a species prioritize cooperation over conquest." "It is irrelevant," Zethkara declared. "Cooperation or conquest. They threaten the order we have maintained since the dawn of galactic civilization. They will be stopped." But privately, she was beginning to understand that humans represented something the Council had never encountered before. Every species they had contained or controlled had eventually submitted to Council authority or been destroyed. The humans seemed determined to find a third option. At Wolf 359, Captain Vasquez worked with the ancient automated systems to develop new technologies. The machines taught her crew how to build ships that could repair themselves and weapons that could adapt to any defense. At Kepler 442, Captain Zhang learned to communicate with the crystal beings. They shared knowledge of energy manipulation that human scientists had never imagined possible. At Gliese 667c, Captain Okafor helped the Cathara come out of hiding and reclaim their ancestral worlds. Together, They began contacting other suppressed species throughout the galaxy. Each human colony became a center of innovation and cooperation. But more than that, they became symbols of hope for species that had lived under Council control for thousands of years. The Council had spent millions of years creating a galaxy where they controlled every aspect of civilization. They had never imagined that someone might try to tear down their system not through destruction, but through inspiration. As the Council's war fleet approached the human colonies, they prepared for a battle to preserve their ancient order, but the humans and their new allies were preparing for something entirely different. They were preparing to set the galaxy free. 2 years after the first human ship escaped from Sol, the galaxy had changed in ways the Council never thought possible. 47 human colonies now spread across space, but they had brought something more dangerous than weapons or armies. They had brought ideas. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, looking out at the most incredible sight in human history. 300 ships from 30 different species surrounded them as they approached the Council's seat of power at Kepler X. This was not an invasion fleet. It was a delegation. Dr. Chen, said Captain Rodriguez, who now served as Admiral of the combined fleet, we're receiving surrender requests from 12 Council worlds. Their populations are demanding freedom to join our alliance. Sarah smiled. The Council's greatest strength had always been control through fear and isolation. Once their subject species learned they had choices, many chose freedom. What about the Council itself? She asked. Still barricaded in their crystal hall above the neutron star, Rodriguez replied. But Ambassador Zethkara has agreed to meet with us. Sarah nodded. After 2 years of conflict, this moment would decide the future of galactic civilization. But the war had not gone as either side expected. The Council had sent their fleets to destroy the human colonies. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that turned every defeat into a victory. When the Council destroyed a human research station, 3 more species learned how to resist Council technology. When they blockaded a human colony, automated factories appeared throughout the system, building defenses that were better than anything the Council had ever seen. Most frustrating of all, humans refused to fight the way civilized species were supposed to fight. They did not challenge the Council to formal battles with equal forces. Instead, they appeared everywhere at once, helped suppressed species develop advanced technology, and turned the Council's own systems against them. The Rigel Collective had been pacified by Council programming for 2,000 years. When human Marines fought alongside their warriors, the Collective remembered what it meant to be free. Within months, they had thrown off Council control and reclaimed their independence. The archivists of Vega were supposed to be extinct, their entire civilization destroyed for preserving forbidden knowledge. Human archaeologists found them in deep hibernation beneath their planet's surface and helped them wake up. The archivists brought with them libraries of information that the Council had tried to erase. Most dangerous of all, humans had taught other species something the Council never wanted them to learn. Cooperation could make them stronger than any individual species could be alone. Now, as the Unity approached the Council's Crystal Hall, Sarah prepared for the most important conversation in galactic history. In the Crystal Hall, the Council of 12 faced their greatest crisis in millions of years. Half their member species had already withdrawn from the Alliance. Subject worlds declared independence daily. The careful order they had built was collapsing. Ambassador Zethkara stood before a holographic display showing the approaching human fleet. Her gray skin looked almost white with stress and her black eyes burned with desperate fury. They come here with representatives from dozens of species, she said to the remaining Council members. Species that should be grateful for our guidance and protection. Instead, they demand an end to our authority. Velthar, the blue-skinned member who had questioned their methods from the beginning, reviewed the situation reports. Ambassador, perhaps it is time to consider that our methods were flawed. Flawed? Zethkara's voice echoed through the hall like thunder. We brought order to a chaotic galaxy. We prevented wars, guided development, and created peace among the stars. We created control. Velthar replied quietly. The humans have shown us what cooperation looks like when it is chosen freely, rather than imposed by force. The ancient Council member whose species had built the first barriers spoke, for what everyone knew would be the last time. In my long life, I have seen many species rise and fall. The humans are different. They do not seek to replace us as rulers. They seek to eliminate the need for rulers entirely. Zethkara felt everything she believed crumbling around her. That is chaos. Without guidance, species will fight and destroy each other. Will they? Asked Velthar. Look at the human colonies. Dozens of species working together, sharing knowledge, defending each other. They have created more cooperation in 2 years than we achieved in millennia. Before Zethkara could respond, an aide announced that the human delegation had arrived. Dr. Sarah Chen walked into the Crystal Hall accompanied by representatives from 29 species. Some had been council members themselves. Others had been suppressed or controlled for thousands of years. All of them had chosen to stand with humanity in creating a new kind of galactic civilization. Ambassador Zethkara, Sarah said in a calm, respectful voice, and we come not as conquerors, but with an offer. Zethkara's black eyes blazed with anger. You destroy our civilization and call it an offer? Your civilization destroyed itself, replied the Kithera ambassador, one of the species the council had declared extinct. You built it on the suppression of others. When those others found hope, your system collapsed. Sarah stepped forward. The quantum barriers can fall. Every suppressed species can choose their own path. The galaxy can become a community of free worlds working together by choice rather than compulsion. And what of order? Zethkara demanded. What prevents chaos when every species follows their own desires? The same thing that prevented chaos among human nations when they learned to cooperate, Sarah replied. Mutual benefit, shared goals, the understanding that we are stronger together than apart. An aide whispered something in Zethkara's ear. Her face went even paler. What? She said aloud. The aide spoke louder. Ambassador, the remaining council fleets have stood down. Admiral Korvash reports that his crews refuse to fight against the liberation fleets. They want to join them. The Crystal Hall fell silent. For the first time in millions of years, the council had no military force to enforce their will. Velthar stood up from his seat. Ambassador, it is over. The old order has ended. We can either help build something new, or we can be left behind by history. Sarah looked around at the remaining council members. You are welcome to join us. Your knowledge and experience could help create a better galaxy, but if you choose to remain isolated, that is your right as well. Freedom means the right to make your own choices, even if others disagree with them. Zethkara stared at the human who had destroyed everything she believed in. You offer us freedom after taking away our power? Power taken by force was never really yours, Sarah replied gently. But the respect earned through cooperation can last forever. For a long moment, Zethkara stood frozen between the past she had known and a future she could not understand. Then she looked around at the Crystal Hall that had been the center of galactic government for so long. What would this new galaxy look like? She asked finally. Sarah smiled. We don't know. That's what makes it exciting. For the first time in millions of years, the future is unwritten. Every species gets to help decide what comes next. 3 months later, Captain Rodriguez, now Admiral of the Free Fleet, sent a message back to Earth from the former Council capital. The expansion is complete. Come see what we've built together. The message was transmitted not just to Earth, but to every world in the galaxy. The quantum barriers were gone. Ancient restrictions had been lifted. Species that had been hidden or controlled for millennia stepped into the light of freedom. The galaxy was no longer ruled by 12 ancient species sitting in judgment over younger races. It had become something new, a community where every voice mattered, where innovation was celebrated rather than contained, and where the future belonged to those who dared to explore it together. Ambassador Zethkara, no longer an ambassador but simply a being trying to understand this new reality, stood in what had once been the council hall. Now it was a meeting place where representatives from hundreds of species came to discuss cooperation rather than receive orders. She watched humans working alongside Kithera engineers and crystal beings from Kepler 442. She saw former council species sharing technology with civilizations they had once suppressed. She witnessed something she had never thought possible. True cooperation born from choice rather than fear. Dr. Chen, she said as Sarah passed by, I owe you an apology. Sarah stopped and looked at the former council leader with compassion. For what? The council believed we knew humanity. We studied your wars, your conflicts, your failures. We never understood your greatest strength, which was. Zethkara looked around at the bustling hall full of diverse species working together. Your ability to see the potential in others and help them become more than they ever thought possible. Sarah nodded. That's not just a human trait, Ambassador. That's what happens when people are free to be their best selves. As Sarah walked away, Zethkara realized the truth that had escaped the council for so long. They had not failed because they lacked power or technology or wisdom. They had failed because they tried to create perfection through control, never understanding that real growth comes from freedom. The galaxy was no longer contained and managed and controlled. It was alive with possibility.